Part-2. For several seconds after Maya spoke, nobody said a word. The museum dome stretched high above them. Beyond the transparent crystal ceiling, thousands of stars glittered against the darkness of space. Maya's eyes remained fixed on them. Calm, certain, almost nostalgic. Professor Tarek stared at her. His heart was pounding harder than it had in decades. "You made it." The words barely escaped his mouth. Maya nodded. "Yes." The elderly historian took a step closer. "Beyond the Perseus Expanse?" "Yes. That's impossible." Maya smiled. "You keep using that word." The historian opened his mouth, then closed it again, because the evidence was standing directly in front of him. Meanwhile, Commander Reth's communicator exploded with alerts. Priority transmissions, government requests, emergency meetings, military intelligence inquiries. The entire Galactic Union was demanding answers. He glanced at the growing list. His face darkened. This situation was rapidly moving beyond museum security, far beyond. A nearby screen suddenly flickered. Then another, then another. Every display throughout Hall 7 activated simultaneously. A golden seal appeared. Galactic Council Priority Communication. Visitors immediately stepped back. Nobody ignored a direct council broadcast. The seal disappeared. A stern alien woman appeared on every screen. Council Director Solara, one of the most powerful officials in known space. Her silver eyes immediately locked onto Maya. The room became silent. Solara didn't waste time. "Human." Maya looked up. "Hello." Several council members behind Solara exchanged confused looks. The human sounded far too relaxed, far too comfortable, as though she wasn't standing at the center of the biggest historical discovery in 4 centuries. Solara folded her hands. "State your identity." "Maya Vale." "Citizenship." Maya smiled slightly. The question seemed to amuse her. "That depends." The council director frowned. "Depends on what?" "Whether your maps have been updated recently." Several visitors laughed nervously. Nobody on the council did. Solara's expression hardened. "Miss Vale, this is a serious matter." Maya's smile faded. "So is rewriting 400 years of history." That shut down the entire room. Even the council members fell silent. Because she was right. History was already collapsing. The human extinction narrative, the museum exhibit, the archaeological evidence, the accepted timeline, everything was suddenly questionable. Professor Tarek slowly looked toward the skeleton inside the glass display. For the first time in his life, he wondered how many other lies existed. Then Maya walked toward the exhibit again. The crowd immediately followed. Her attention returned to the hidden symbol beneath the display. 3 overlapping stars. Ancient, worn, human. Commander Reth noticed something. "You're not surprised by the symbol." "No. You recognize it." "Yes." Professor Tarek stepped forward. "What is it?" Maya gently touched the metal plate. For a moment, something changed in her expression. Not amusement, not confident, something deeper, almost sadness. Then she spoke. "It was one of the first expedition markers." The historian froze. "First expedition?" Maya nodded. "The fleet that crossed the Perseus Expanse." The room became silent again. Every visitor listened. Every camera was recorded. Every council member watched. Maya looked at the stars above, then continued. 400 years ago, humanity reached a crossroads. Nobody interrupted. Nobody dared. Our scientists discovered something beyond the edge of explored space. "What?" Maya smiled. "The same thing every civilization eventually discovers." Professor Tarek leaned forward. "What was it?" Maya finally looked at him. "The galaxy isn't the center of anything." The room froze. The council director frowned. "What does that mean?" Maya pointed upward. "Your civilization spent thousands of years fighting over territory. Empires, borders, trade routes." She shook her head. Humans looked farther. The stars reflected in her eyes. "And we found something enormous." The council members exchanged nervous glances. Solara spoke carefully. "What did humanity find?" For the first time all day, Maya hesitated. Not because she feared the answer, because she knew nobody would believe it. Then she said it anyway. "We found others." The museum became completely silent. "Others." The word echoed through the hall. Commander Reeth frowned. "Other what?" Maya looked at him. "Civilizations." Professor Tarek's face drained of color. "No." Maya nodded. "Yes." The historian shook his head. That would be impossible. The galaxy contains thousands of civilizations already. Maya smiled. You misunderstand. Then she delivered the sentence that shattered every assumption in the room. They weren't in this galaxy. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Even Council Director Solara looked stunned. Another galaxy. Another civilization. Another entire population beyond known space. The implications were staggering. Professor Tarek's knees nearly gave out. For centuries, the Galactic Union had believed itself to be one of the largest collections of intelligent life in existence. Now a human woman was casually suggesting otherwise. Then the Council Director spoke. You're asking us to believe humanity abandoned the galaxy? No. Maya shook her head. We expanded. The Council Director stared. Maya continued. While your governments argued over sectors and borders, we kept exploring. The crowd remained silent. We crossed the Perseus Expanse. We crossed the void beyond it. We reached places no one thought existed. Then Maya looked around the museum, at the visitors, the skeleton, the exhibits, the fake history, and finally, the people who had laughed at humanity less than an hour ago. Her voice softened. You thought we disappeared. A sad smile appeared on her face. We never disappeared. Then she looked toward the stars again. We just kept going. Silence. Absolute silence. The words hit harder than any weapon. Because suddenly, the extinction story sounded ridiculous. Of course, humanity wasn't extinct. Humanity had simply done what humanity always did. Moved forward. Explored further. Refused to stop. Professor Tarek slowly lowered himself onto a nearby bench. His entire understanding of history was collapsing. Yet strangely, he felt excited. Because for the first time in decades, history was alive again. Then a security officer rushed into Hall 7. His face was pale, very pale. Commander Reith immediately noticed. What happened? The officer swallowed, hard, then looked directly at Maya. Sir, what? The officer activated a holographic display. A deep space sensor image appeared. The room went silent. A massive object had just emerged near the edge of the system. Not a ship, not a fleet, something much larger. The officer's voice trembled. It appeared 23 minutes ago. Commander Reith stared at the image. What is it? The officer looked at Maya, then back at the scan, then whispered, it transmitted a message. The entire museum froze. Maya's expression didn't change, almost as if she already knew. Commander Reith swallowed. What message? The officer hesitated, then read the transmission. Human Expeditionary Vessel Horizon responding to Citizen Locator Beacon. The room went silent. Every eye turned toward Maya, and for the first time all day, the human smiled. Not politely, not sarcastically. This smile was different. This was the smile of someone seeing family. Nobody in Hall 7 spoke. Nobody even seemed capable of speaking. The holographic image hovered above the crowd. A single object floated near the edge of the system. At first glance, it looked like a star. Then everyone realized it wasn't. Stars didn't move. Stars didn't transmit messages. And stars certainly didn't answer citizen locator beacons. The object on the display was enormous, far larger than any civilian vessel, far larger than most military fleets. Commander Reith stared at the image. His voice sounded distant. How large is it? The sensor officer checked again, then checked a second time, then a third. His face became increasingly pale. Sir, what? The officer swallowed. The sensors can't calculate its full dimensions. The room became silent. Again, Professor Tarek slowly stood. That's impossible. The officer nodded. I know. The historian stared at the display. Everything about the object felt wrong. Its shape didn't match known engineering principles. Its energy output exceeded entire planetary grids. And worst of all, the vessel wasn't hiding. It wanted to be seen. Council Director Solara immediately stood from her seat on the broadcast screen. Move every available defense fleet. Several military officials behind her nodded. Orders spread instantly across the sector. Emergency mobilization began. Maya watched the reaction with obvious amusement. Commander Remitz noticed. You find this funny? Maya looked at him. A little. A military response is not funny. No. She pointed toward the display, thinking that the fleet could stop them is funny. The room froze. Solara's eyes narrowed. Explain. Maya folded her arms. The Horizon isn't a warship. Several people blinked. What? Maya repeated herself. The horizon isn't military. Nobody knew how to respond. Professor Tarek finally found words. That thing is not military? No. What is it? Maya smiled. Exploration vessel. The historian nearly fainted. An exploration vessel. An exploration vessel larger than fleets. An exploration vessel powerful enough to confuse military sensors. An exploration vessel that had crossed unknown galaxies. The implications were horrifying. If that was a civilian ship, what did human warships look like? Nobody wanted the answer. Meanwhile, throughout the sector, panic was spreading. News channels exploded with coverage. The human returns. Living human discovered. Ancient species confirmed alive. Unknown vessel approaching. Every network carried the story. Every government monitored the situation. Every military is prepared for the worst. And in the middle of it all, Maya stood beside a fake human skeleton, looking bored. The contrast was almost absurd. Professor Tarek finally asked the question everyone feared. How many humans are there? The museum became silent. Maya looked thoughtful, then shrugged. A lot. The historian nearly screamed. A lot isn't a number. I know. Then give me a number. Maya smiled. No. Several council members looked annoyed. Solara crossed her arms. Why not? Maya glanced toward the stars. Because you'd spend the next month arguing about it. Nobody laughed. The human continued. You've spent 400 years believing humanity was extinct. She pointed toward the museum. Maybe process that first. Fair point. Nobody could argue with that. Then another alert appeared. The deep space sensors updated. Every screen in the museum changed. Visitors gasped. The horizon had moved, not slowly, not gradually. It had crossed nearly a third of the system in seconds. The room erupted into panic. Commander Reith grabbed the nearest console. That's impossible. The sensor officer looked terrified. Our calculations show no acceleration. What? It simply changed position. Professor Tarek stared at the display. His scientific training was screaming at him. Nothing should move like that. Nothing. Yet the data remained unchanged. Maya didn't seem surprised. Of course she didn't. She looked almost nostalgic, as if she had seen it 1,000 times before. Then something happened that nobody expected. The horizon transmitted again. A holographic image appeared above the museum floor. Visitors stepped backward. Security officers raised weapons. Military advisors shouted warnings. The image stabilized, and everyone froze. Because the figure that appeared wasn't terrifying. It wasn't intimidating. It wasn't even wearing armor. It was human, an older woman. Gray hair, warm eyes, simple uniform. She looked more like a professor than a conqueror. The woman smiled. Maya. For the first time all day, Maya's calm mask cracked. Just slightly. Enough for people to notice. Enough for people to realize something important. The human standing beside the skeleton wasn't fearless. She simply hadn't encountered anything important yet. Until now. Maya smiled. Hello, Grandma. The entire museum froze. Grandma? Professor Tarek nearly fell over. Commander Rith stared. Council Director Solara forgot to speak. Even the security officers looked confused. The older woman laughed softly. Still causing trouble? Maya shrugged. They started it. Several visitors glanced toward the museum guide. The guide looked like he wanted to disappear. The older woman finally noticed the exhibit behind Maya. The fake skeleton, the plaque, the display, the words extinct human species. Her smile vanished. The temperature in the room seemed to drop, not because she looked angry, because she looked disappointed, and somehow that felt worse. The older woman studied the exhibit carefully, then sighed. Oh dear, nobody moved, nobody spoke. The older woman looked directly at Council Director Solara. Who approved this? The question wasn't shouted, it wasn't threatening, yet every council member immediately looked nervous. Solara cleared her throat. The exhibit predates our administration. The older woman nodded. I assumed so. Then she looked toward Professor Tarek. The historian nearly jumped. Professor. Yes? You seem intelligent. The old historian blinked. Thank you. The human woman pointed toward the skeleton. What species is that? Professor Tarek hesitated, then answered honestly. I don't know. The woman smiled. Good. Everyone looked confused. The human continued. That's the correct answer. The museum became silent again. Then she delivered the sentence that would dominate headlines across the galaxy. Because that skeleton doesn't belong to any naturally evolved species. Nobody breathed. Professor Tarek's eyes widened. Commander Reth stared. Council Director Solara froze. The older woman continued calmly. It was manufactured. The room exploded. Visitors shouted. Historians panicked. Security officers exchanged confused looks. The guide nearly collapsed. Manufactured. Had the skeleton been planted? Created? Artificial? 4 centuries of accepted history were shattered instantly. Maya watched the chaos, then quietly asked, "Should we tell them the rest?" The older woman looked at her, then at the museum, then at the terrified crowd. And finally, she smiled. "No." The room became silent. "Not yet." Maya nodded. The older woman turned toward the council. Her eyes suddenly looked much older, much wiser, much more dangerous. Then she spoke one final sentence before ending the transmission, a sentence that sent fear through every government in the galaxy. "You think humanity disappeared 400 years ago?" Beyond the transparent crystal ceiling, she paused. The stars reflected behind her. Then she smiled. "You haven't even found our oldest colony yet." The transmission ended. The hologram vanished. And across the entire Galactic Union, billions of people realized the same terrifying truth. Humanity wasn't extinct. Humanity wasn't lost. Humanity wasn't hiding. Humanity had simply grown beyond anything the galaxy could imagine. The galaxy did not sleep that night. It couldn't. Every news network, every government, every military command center, every university, every historical institution, every intelligence agency, they all asked the same question. How many humans are out there? And nobody had an answer. Across thousands of worlds, citizens watched recordings from the museum, the laughing crowd, the fake skeleton, the scanner results, Maya Vale, the arrival of the horizon, and finally, the words that shattered 4 centuries of accepted history. "You haven't even found our oldest colony yet." The sentence spread through the Galactic Union like a virus. Meanwhile, inside the Museum of Extinct Civilizations, Hall 7 had become the most heavily guarded room in known space. Security forces surrounded the building. Military transports filled the skies. Government officials arrived by the hour. And at the center of it all sat Maya Vale, drinking tea. Professor Tarek stared at her from across the interview room. He had not slept, had not eaten, had barely blinked. His entire career was collapsing, and strangely, he had never felt more alive. Finally, he asked the question that had been tormenting him. What happened beyond the Perseus Expanse? Maya set down her cup. For a moment she seemed to consider the answer. Then she smiled. "The short version?" Professor Tarek nodded. "Please." Maya leaned back. "Humanity got curious." The historian sighed. "That's not an answer." "It is for humans." She looked through the large observation window toward the stars. "We found something strange." "What?" "A signal." Professor Tarek immediately sat forward. "What kind of signal?" Maya's eyes remained fixed on the stars. "Old." "How old?" "Older than any civilization in this galaxy." The room became silent. Professor Tarek felt his pulse quicken. Ancient signals, unknown civilizations, other galaxies. The story sounded impossible. Yet every impossible thing Maya had said so far had turned out to be true. "We followed it," Maya continued, "past the Perseus Expanse, past the void, past everything your maps call space." The historian listened carefully. Then Maya laughed softly. And then things became complicated. Before he could ask another question, alarms suddenly echoed throughout the station. Commander Reth's voice burst across the intercom. "Attention all personnel, deep space contact update." Every screen activated instantly. The image of the horizon appeared again, only this time, everyone gasped. The ship was no longer alone. Professor Tarek stood up so quickly that his chair fell backward. The sensor feed zoomed out, farther, 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 and more ships appeared. Not dozens, not hundreds, thousands. The room became completely silent. A vast formation stretched across deep space, like a city among the stars, like an ocean of light. Every vessel carried the same symbol. 3 overlapping stars. The symbol from the museum, the symbol from the first expedition, the symbol humanity had carried beyond the edge of known space. Commander Reth appeared on screen. His face was pale. "Miss Vale." Maya looked up. "Yes." The commander swallowed. "Our sensors are counting over 12,000 ships." Maya nodded. That sounds about right. The commander stared at her. 12,000. Yes. Do you understand how many that is? Maya smiled. Commander. She glanced at the display. That's only the welcoming committee. The entire room froze. Professor Tarek almost stopped breathing. Only the welcoming committee. Not a fleet, not an armada, not an invasion force. A welcome party. Somewhere across the Galactic Union, several military leaders nearly suffered heart attacks. Then something even stranger happened. The human fleet stopped. Every ship remained perfectly motionless, not advancing, not threatening, simply waiting, as if showing respect, as if waiting for permission. Professor Tarek noticed. They aren't moving. No. Why? Maya smiled. Because this is your home. The historian blinked. What? The human looked genuinely confused by the question. We're visitors. The room fell silent. Visitors. A civilization powerful enough to cross galaxies. A civilization capable of building ships larger than cities. A civilization thought extinct for 400 years, and they still considered themselves guests. Professor Tarek slowly sat down. For the first time, he understood why humanity had survived. It wasn't strength. It wasn't technology. It wasn't numbers. It was perspective. Humans never stopped looking beyond the horizon, never stopped asking questions, never stopped exploring. Then another transmission arrived. This one was different, not from the horizon, not from the fleet, from somewhere much farther away. The communication officers immediately noticed the anomaly. The signal source was beyond sensor range, beyond navigation charts, beyond known space. Commander Reith looked terrified. Where is this coming from? Maya glanced at the coordinates, then smiled. A real smile, a happy smile. The kind of smile people have when seeing home after a very long journey. Professor Tarek noticed immediately. What is it? Maya looked toward the stars. For the first time since entering the museum, her voice carried genuine emotion. Home. The transmission strengthened. A holographic image slowly appeared. At first it was only light, then shapes. The entire world. The room gasped. A vast civilization filled the screen, thousands of artificial stars, megastructures surrounding the suns, worlds suspended in space, cities larger than planets, and stretching beyond them all, a civilization so enormous that the sensor display could not capture its full size. Professor Tarek stared in complete disbelief. Every assumption, every theory, every historical record, gone, destroyed. Humanity had not vanished. Humanity had become something far greater than anyone had imagined. And as the image expanded across every screen in the museum, Maya quietly whispered, "Welcome to what we found beyond the Perseus Expanse." Like and subscribe to my channel for more HFY sci-fi stories.